Can believers in a God claim objective morality? Do they have some sort of objective standard that can define for everyone what we think is morally good or morally bad? Is the moral argument for God's existence just an attempt to hijack or take credit for individual moral systems? To me, I think the answer depends. First, I think it would come down to how we define the words objective and subjective. Personally, I go by the widely accepted definitions, being that things that are objective are mind or stance independent and based on evidence and facts, and things that are subjective are mind or stance dependent and based on things like opinions or individual perspective. An objective statement to me would be something like it's 84 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and a subjective statement would be something like it's too hot outside. Now, with that in mind, the idea of objective morality would then have to come down to what one believes are the attributes of the God or gods they believe in. Now, it's an undeniable fact that we live in a world where moral systems vary from person to person and culture to culture. And if you ask me as an atheist, I think that happens because moral systems are relative to things such as the evolutionary advantage that comes with being empathetic, which allows us to live among one another peacefully and ensure the survival of our offspring. And by extension, our ability as individuals to apply that empathy. Other things would include individual life circumstances, mental state, parental upbringing, societal upbringing, and yes, religious belief. What about believers, though? How could a believer account for this difference in moral systems worldwide and even from person to person? One could argue that moral codes are present in different people by multiple gods or multiple minds or through multiple lenses if you're a polytheist or an omnist or a pantheist, and that could at least logically and explanatorily check out. What if you're not, though, and you're a monotheist and you only believe in one singular God? At that point, you could then argue that maybe the one God that you believe in simply isn't the giver of everyone's morality or that they didn't create everyone. And at that point, the conversation about objective morality ends. Let's say you disagree with that point, though. Well, at that point, let's go back to the definition of objective. Now, would they believe that this God has a mind? If so, then no, you can't definitionally say that morals are objective if the thing that morals are dependent on is the mind and stance of that God figure. Now, there are a few possible contentions, one being that you believe that this moral truth either predates your God figure or that it's otherwise external to their mind. But that would only work if you think that the God figure you believe in has had some concept predate their eternal existence, which would mean that they aren't eternal, or that you don't indeed believe that this God is the cause behind moral truths, respectively. Another possible contention is that this God doesn't have the capability to change their mind, or at the very least to change their mind about what's morally right or wrong, but that would only work if the God you believed in isn't all powerful. The last possible contention that I can think of is if you believe that it's simply in this God's nature to be righteous or at least be morally correct, but unfortunately that would only work if you believe that the God you believe in doesn't have free will in addition to their capability to change their mind. However, if one hypothetically believes in one singular God who has free will and who has the capability of changing their mind and who has existed eternally and who is the ultimate decider of what's morally right and wrong, then logically the answer is no, you cannot say that morals are objective. And to answer your question off of that, yes, I think that the moral argument is simply an attempt to use your religion to hijack people's individual moral systems. All that being said, I do believe in personal moral absolutes, in that there are things that I would never find permissible under any circumstance. I also think that there are many reasons that people argue for objective morality, despite the idea of moral absolutes being a lot more categorically logical. One being that, as it is with most classical arguments for God, a lot of believers who use this argument have usually copied its terminology and dialogue tree, so to speak, from other debaters or figures in a modern religious space, who, in this case, originally used the term objective. Another reason being that a conversation about moral absolutes doesn't give much of an opportunity to seemingly intentionally misrepresent the idea of subjective moral causes as permissibility of things that are generally thought to be morally repugnant. Another reason being a possible unintentional misunderstanding of the widely accepted definition of the words, or an intentional lack of care for their definitions, which could lead one to misconstruing strong moral convictions with objective moral truths. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Take care.